When you make a massive change like Industrial Annihilation has, you have to get it right. That not only applies to the new, but it has to integrate seamlessly with the old, or it all falls apart. This is how I started my original script for what this video was supposed to be, which was a discussion on what changes Industrial Annihilation had made to the Total Annihilation Supreme Commander formula, and what the addition of the whole factory automation mechanic adds, but, well, it turns out I have other things to talk about instead. Right now, Industrial Annihilation has 6 tutorial missions and a 1v1 multiplayer mode. I'm not one for multiplayer, so let's talk about what I did play. Mission 1 is pretty basic. It introduces you to the gimmick, that being the automation aspect. The big problem with this mission is that it lasts way too long. The end screen tells me that it took 43 minutes in-game time. Now, I had it set to 4+ speed for a lot of it, so my recording tells me it took 13 minutes, but it didn't even have to take that long. It's just... do this exact same thing over and over. I get it. I don't think a player is going to have difficulties wrapping their head around 2 concepts. The first is that resources are gathered from nodes and go into a warehouse. Easy. The second is that you can use trucks to transport resources. You needed to demonstrate that like twice at most. Here's an idea. Have the player set up production for coal and iron and then introduce making steel. Because we can do that here, in this mission, and then have water and sulfur be gathered, transported by trucks, and then turned into explosives. That's a more efficient use of your tutorial mission's time, and we can cover multiple absolutely critical aspects of the game all in one big hit. And instead of 1,000, make it like 100 or 200 or something. We really don't need to be gathering resources 1,000 times. Mission 2 is where it gets a bit trickier, or at least I think it's supposed to. See, I didn't finish this one. What you're supposed to do is build a bunch of power generation buildings. This is also where power is introduced, and it kind of sucks. So what I think is happening is all these yellow circles represent your power grid, but some yellow circles... This conversation is immaterial though. See how my commander and fabbers are flashing red? According to the help screen, that means they can't find the right resources to build whatever building is queued up. Unfortunately, I queued up multiple buildings, some of which only require iron, and that's an abundance. I have no idea what building they've hitched on. I assume it's the carbon generator, but that actually shouldn't matter. This shouldn't be happening in a tutorial. I can see there's a warehouse full of glass, for example. It's one of these ones here. That's used to make the little solar power plants, so it can't be those it's having trouble with. Unless there's some kind of other issue that's causing them to hitch, the implication is the tutorial building needs resources they don't provide and don't tell you how to make. Buildings that are under construction don't seem to show you how many resources they're still waiting on. That little UI element would really help. There's no audio cue and no notification that I could see, and it's not like they try building something else that they can build. Notice those ghosts of an extractor over the coal? I queued those up with the commander. It won't build them, even though it totally can. I also noticed that they won't pull resources off a conveyor belt. I think I get why they made it like that, but I wish it could at least be an option, or at least a last resort thing. I think I remember seeing somewhere in the patch notes that the carbon generator changed its building recipe, and I think they didn't change the mission to reflect that. Or they did, and something else went wrong somewhere. Look, I don't know. I played this mission a while ago before the recipe change, and it built just fine. I got up to the point where you're building artillery and shooting down the shield. It takes forever, and you have to use artillery, a stationary building, to destroy the enemy commander, something that can move and is located on the other side of the base. I gave up at that point. I could see the next hour of my life spending building artillery and inching them forward bit by bit, and decided to just move on. Mission 3 is just Mission 1 again! Refine raw materials 1,000 times, now do it again! And again! Tutorials do a bunch of things for a video game. They explain what the controls are, sure, but they also set expectations. They teach you how to play the game, not just control it. So the tutorials for Industrial Annihilation suggest to me that the game is really dull. You see the timer counter somehow found itself at 3 hours? I am certain that there has to be some timer glitch, but maybe that's really how long I would have had to sit there watching resources be taken across conveyor belts in normal time. That's unacceptable! If I am being taught anything useful, those lessons are being smothered by the maddening length of time it takes to build these stupid warehouses. This mission should be all about building factories and making units. Also introducing advanced builders, because I know they're in the game somewhere. Before we jump into the last mission, let's check out those 2 other missions they added in a recent update. These weren't present when I started playing the game for the first time, so I'm curious if they're better than the base tutorial missions. So we start with logistics and... oh my god. It's an actual tutorial. And it's actually okay. It doesn't mention the shift click thing for the truck explicitly, which is how you make it go back and forth, but I think the help section does mention it. Short, sweet, and it actually explains things. Let's check out power next, I'm excited now. Oh, holy shit, I think I get it now. As long as there's an overlapping circle, it's all connected to the same grid. Ah, that makes sense. That's really all you needed to say, guys. It's been like 10 days since launch. But it's fine, okay? Actually, really good job on these 2. These are what the missions always should have been. Alright, mission 4. Let's do this. Oh. Can you imagine playing, I don't know, 0 Hour from StarCraft 2, but starting with absolutely nothing but a command center and 5 SCVs? What about the Battle of Falkirk from Age of Empires 2 with the town center and 3 villages? Like, I get it, this is the everything you've learned mission, and I generally like those kinds of tutorial missions, but the problem is I haven't learned much of anything at this point because the 3 missions before this one are awful to play, and they don't teach anything useful. I don't think they teach you to make units, ever. Trying to figure that out in a live fire exercise isn't exactly fair. You're up against a massive enemy force with at least 1 expansion base and a fully kitted out production line, and you start out with a commander, a builder, and a truck. And your starting resources are pretty dire. No copper, which is funny since it's all over the place in the last 3 missions, so your production is limited. Also, if you're wondering, I did give it a second go, and it ended pretty much the same way as the first. You know what, I think I'm done here for now. Industrial Annihilation has promise. It's probably going to turn into something that's at least interesting to play, if not something really cool and special. One day, I'm going to be keeping an eye on Industrial Annihilation as it progresses through that roadmap of theirs, but I doubt I'll touch it again until it hits 1.0, whenever that'll be. And your takeaway from this video, Industrial Annihilation fan watching this, if you're even still there, might be that this just isn't the game for me. And you might be right. But I'm gonna wait for 1.0 to answer that question definitively. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm sorry. This turned into a much more difficult video to make than I wanted it to be. It mutated into something a lot bigger than it was supposed to, then I pared it down into something smaller. Yes, this is the pared down version, and I had to re-record a bunch of stuff a couple times because there was a bunch of changes and updates, and they improved it by little bits, but they still didn't make the game actually fun for me to play. The plan was for this video to be positive and out on the 14th. I failed on both counts. If you somehow liked this video, please let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that algorithm jazz. And look, since we're pretty solidly into the holiday season, however you celebrate or celebrated or not, I hope you had a good one and continue having a good one into the new year. See you in 2025.